Hey, welcome to another episode on Fish Innovation. This is something I think all product managers should really listen to. This is an innovative strategy and product management podcast, and we haven't had it in a while. Very specific product management, but in this case, I think it's really important to hear whether you are a product manager, project manager, or even just a CEO to listen in on why this topic is important. We're actually going to dive into the world of product management and organization using software to do this. I have a guest on the show today, which I'll introduce in just a second. Not only am I excited about his product, but he is a fellow Arizona Wildcat, and it's always great to have folks, how they think about things coming out of University of Arizona. It's great. And with that, I'd like to introduce Anthony to the show. Anthony, how's it going?
Good, good. Thanks for having me, Ben. I appreciate it. And bear down.
Of course, bear down. So we always have folks on the show when they start off. They will talk about their background, their journey, and I know we're gonna talk a lot about VelocitiPM, which folks will start to learn about soon. I think it'd be great to talk through how did you end up getting to VelocityPM? Where did the idea come from? What is it that you're making an impact today in product management?
Sure. I've been in product and tech leadership, product development my entire career, and kind of over 20, 25 years of doing this, developed a kind of a framework or a blueprint for, the best way to build products and take them to market. It was for years, it was just something that was in my head. It might have been loosely documented, but kind of kept taking that framework from company to company, a lot of startups, but also eBay, Amazon. I implemented it there as well. And, I also over that time kept looking for there must be a tool or a platform that I could use to do this. And there really wasn't. I tried some of our competitors and, again, they kind of solved part of the issue, but didn't really get it done. So about 3 years ago, was working at another startup, obviously using this system and was kind of looking for an idea for the next startup that I would do, not what I wanted to do next. And then it just hit me like, hey, turn this framework that I have that's again, mostly in my head, kind of documented, turn that into a SaaS platform and launch that and use that for kind of go out to the product industry and see if it resonated. And it really did. Not only was I solving my own problem, but I feel like I got good validation that a lot of other product leaders, product managers, product teams had all of these same kind of issues. So it resonated. We built an MVP and just kind of went from there.
That's great. What were some of the feedback you were hearing from product managers that sort of enlightened you or kind of had that aha moment like, oh, wow, I
Right.
think a SaaS would be the perfect solution for this problem?
Yeah. There were really two things there were many things, but two especially that I kept hearing over and over again. And the first one is kind of more, I don't know of an ROI or a tactical or a efficiency thing. And that was, I was using a number of different tools kind of pieced together to manage the product development lifecycle. And I had a feeling that most people out there did the same reaching out to product managers and product leaders, they all said the same thing. Oh, yeah, I'm using three, four, five different tools. And what was funny is if they said, I think I'm only really using one or two, I would just start probing a little bit and then come up with a list of sometimes 8 or 10 different tools. So that was a consistent thing, right? There just wasn't one platform. So that really resonated. Oh, we'd love to have a single platform that is kind of the source of truth for our product development. And the other thing was kind of a consistent agreement that product development is broken, specifically software product development. Nobody really wants to admit it, but you know, you look at the data and 75% or more of product launches fail. And what's crazy is in 2024, over $1 trillion was spent on software product development. So you tell me another industry that with less than a 25% success rate, you continue to spend over $1 trillion, right?
Yeah.
And it's really because even that small success rate generates, obviously more than a trillion dollars in revenue. But how much better could it be if we were building products better and building them right?
That it's really interesting. I think, you're spot on. It's, really good product managers end up using a lot of different software because there really isn't an all-in-one software. It's usually components of software that the enterprise has purchased that you're gravitating towards, but it's on all these different SaaS platforms.
For
And then
sure.
you're kind of having to string them together and then think about the communication behind that, right? Like, all right, go to my Confluence page, and then yeah, can you go to the Figma? I got that over there, and can you, so it's just sort of trying to communicate that, and then having, if you're doing like Scrum or Agile methodology, you're going to have multiple different types of people in the group in the Scrum with different backgrounds, and so you do have to use the different softwares to be able to resonate with these different folks. So it totally makes sense to say, how can this all be tied together where it's a little bit simpler platform that everybody can understand and leverage. I love that. How, like, are you seeing a lot of more junior product managers using your platform, or is it more senior, hey, I've done this forever, but I'm glad now there's like a software to do it, versus more junior, which is, oh my gosh, this is so much easier. Or I'm trying to learn 9 systems, but this one has just been amazing.
So, we really do see a good mix, kind of different reasons or different drivers. If you're a more senior product manager, you're likely very searching for the best frameworks, the best methodologies. You're going to product conferences. You're reading books by Marty Kagan and Teresa Torres, who wrote Continuous Discovery Habits. So the senior people are more like they're believers in these best in class and best practices, all of these frameworks, but they're like, but there's nowhere that implements it or follows these methodologies. So that's kind of the reason that the more senior product people are driven to the platform. Whereas if you're maybe kind of first PM job or you're early in your career, it's kind of showing you how to do it, how to follow a good process and how to be a good product manager. So kind of for different reasons, we really do see both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, plus too, like a lot of product management I know at larger companies is how good at you are at herding cats, right?
For sure.
It's not necessarily just working on the execution of it, but getting people together to do it. And so I know there are a lot of like junior product managers that can struggle with that because you've got to be able to understand each of these partners' backgrounds, not personally, but this the line of business or the supporting partner roles, so that you know how to kind of have them fit together and seek out what you're looking for to be able to solve the problem or the build, whatever it may be, and get it to market. It's really interesting. Like, do you see that communication is better received on Velocity PM? Like, it's a lot easier to communicate with folks.
For sure. I mean, even going back to something you mentioned earlier, that is, okay, hey, here's a link to a Google Doc, or, this is in the wiki. Go over here to see, a Figma mockup. We bring that all together. The way we look at it is we're mission control for all of the product development process and tools. That doesn't mean we are, building or we want to every single piece, right? We want to focus on our core competency and what we do best, but the areas where there's other critically important tools that we won't build, we integrate with, right? So we're building an integration with Figma, for instance. So our AI copilot or agent will do the product discovery or help you do the product discovery, start to build up requirements. What problems are you solving? All of the things that product managers do, feed that into Figma and say, using this data, build the mockups, right? Build the design and the Figma files for this. So again, integrated into the platform, everything's in one place. Then that could be passed to a dev team, or it could be passed to the AI coding agent to build a working prototype. That's kind of where we are right now. Is we've been this co-pilot that makes product managers and product teams better, right? It guides them, it generates data, it helps them. Now we're working on agent based workflows that'll just fully automate instead of it being an interactive process with the AI. It's just automating it for you with the option of spitting out working prototypes at the end. With all of that kind of aligned and integrated with a single platform, it's all in one place. So it almost, you don't almost don't even have to communicate. Not that you don't, you won't communicate, but I mean, you don't have to kind of send out these communications, go here, go here, go here. It's just everything is there. Everyone on the team has access to it and all in one place.
Yeah, that's pretty slick. I mean, I know one thing I've been doing a lot for founders is a lot of the quick prototyping using AI. So actually getting to, I guess you call it like vaporware, right? So it's not really connected to
Right.
anything, but it's a full entire working software. I mean, the names, changing the drop downs, all that stuff. And it's built in minutes. And so it's nuts
Right.
because you're able to see, like, usually from a product management perspective, to get to a prototype would take 4 or 5 months, at best.
For sure.
And now what you're saying is, hey, you can, with the use of AI, which we know I think moves us faster to launch, or in good terms, faster to failure, that we'll have a prototype that we'll be able to share with leadership. Say, hey, this is what we're working on. There'll be clarity among the engineers and the product development team to be able to see, like, oh, this is exactly the vision. I get it now. I see what's up there. And then to have the code, it does a lot of your job. Not entirely your job, right? But
Right.
you have an ability. Talk to me a little bit more about AI, and how you're embracing that within
Sure.
Velocity.
And, couple of points that, I'll make that are really our thesis or our position on this. I've said a lot. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll hear me say a lot. We don't need to build software faster. We need to build products better. Now, I'm not saying speed isn't important. It's extremely important, but anybody now could pick your coding AI coder of choice, Lovable, V0, any of them, and quickly spit out working code. Is it good quality code? Does it solve a real problem? Will people use it? And the answer to all of those is generally no, right? So that's why I say AI is great to build something quickly, but the more important part of this is how do you know you're building the right thing? Are you solving a problem? Will people use this? Is it maintainable? What is the next iteration or the next version of this look like? And you're not going to get that through vibe coding or just, somebody randomly sitting in front of an AI coding engine. All of that comes from good product management. And so what I say is the fundamentals haven't changed. We have so many more tools and we have again mostly driven by AI. We have ways to do this faster and better, but don't lose the fundamentals. You still have to do product discovery. You still have to focus on the right problems and break those down. And again, just good old fashioned, not that product management is old, but good old fashioned product management. So the way we see it is let's leverage AI to first do product management, do it faster, do it better, focus on solving the right problems, then build these working prototypes. And by the way, we're really intentional when we say working prototypes. We don't believe that AI is ready for production yet, AI code. It's going to be there, right? That could be later this year. It could be several years from now. It's going to be there, but it's not there now. So let's build the right thing. Let's build these working prototypes. I love what you said earlier. You can share that with your stakeholders, with your customers, but know that it's a prototype. You generated it pretty quickly based on the right, on good product management, and then maybe give that to your developers as the requirements, right? Rather than user stories with good acceptance criteria. No, it needs to look like this, it needs to work like this, but do it with better coding in your style, in our repository that, so we can track everything. So that's kind of the feeling, right? Is AI is making it way easier and way better, but not ready for prime time yet. Let's do good product management.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I know anecdotally I've spoken to a lot of founders who have either their engineering background, or maybe they were junior product managers that were like, oh, I could build this, but they do miss out. They come up with the solution first. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's easy access, right, with the AI to build something, but they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to build this because I have this idea and it's going to be great. But then you're going to find nobody wants this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what is the problem you're solving? I don't know. This is a solution. Should it matter? It's like, yes. Absolutely. I mean, product management is at the end of the day critical thinking and problem solving. If you're not able to be one of the best at that, it's gonna be a difficult role to fill. So you're right. I mean, using Velocity PM to get you to that point where have you work through, the problem statement and everything. I mean, I have a on one of my websites, I have a nice infographic that shows what is step one of the product development cycle is problem statement analysis and identification. So I've got at least 6 or 7 steps you have to go through before you've clearly identified the problem statement, and only then, once you've identified it, can you move on to solutioning.
For
And I
sure.
know a lot of people want to do that to start, right? They're like, "Oh, I know what the problem is. Okay, now I've got all these solutions for it." You're like, "Wait, hold on." And then what I think a lot of people also don't notice too with product managers is, so once you get to that solutioning stage, you have to start putting on different hats and start to say, okay, so if I'm a consumer, how am I going to see this? What are the risks that I'm going to start to find here? What are the new problems that will arise from this solution that I should probably think about what that customer experience or customer journey should be like? And I think that's a lot of it too, because people will jump to the build and they're like, great, I know what I've identified the problem. Here's a solution. Now I just need to tell AI and it builds this nice prototype, but you haven't, you haven't looked at the customer journey. You haven't looked at,
Totally.
right, like how is this actually going to be used? Like, yes, I know you're going to do your product testing and user experience and all the things you're going to do, the focus groups. However, you want to think through that before you hand it out to the focus group. Otherwise, you're just going to keep tinkering and iterating
Yeah.
nonstop. Um, but
You know,
it does keep there faster.
I think we're in a world now where the feature factory, you hear this, mostly later stage companies, right, become feature factories. They just build whatever their customers want,
Yeah.
whether they're, again, whether it's solving a real problem without knowing, are they actually going to use it? Just because they ask for it doesn't mean they're going to use it. We're now in an age where it's like we have the feature factory on steroids, right? Because that's what AI coding can do is just keep building stuff, keep building stuff. And there's this spectrum. On one end, and typically you see this with startups. I have a great idea. Everybody needs this. I'm not going to go talk to customers. I'm not going to do product discovery. I'm not going to start with the problem statement. I'm just going to build this because I know people want it and nobody wants it, right? Then on the other end, you have just asking customers what they want, or they're telling you, and again, without doing product discovery and maybe scoring those requests to see, is there strategic value? Does it really solve a problem? Do multiple customers want this? Instead of doing that, you're just building. And AI is just making that easier, right? I always say that, I've been saying for a while now that AI is making it faster and easier than ever to build software. It's generally not great software and nobody
Yeah.
wants it, right?
Yeah.
How many hello worlds do you need? Or go even more, how many AI chatbots? I see all the time. Hey, I, went to a, coding boot camp or session this weekend and I built a working chatbot, AI chatbot in 10 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, so did a million other people and no one's going to use them. Congratulations.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a lot of misconception, with AI is, remember, AI is a tool. So it does, we just talked about it several times, how it gets you there faster, but the person who's wielding the tool is what you really need. And I saw a cartoon the other day. It was really interesting because, so the thing is, a lot we talk about is like automation. Like AI is helpful through automation, and we want to automate everything to make everything go faster. And this cartoon was, the top left frame, there's only 4 frames. So there's like top left frame, there's a person sitting at the computer and she says, there's this task. You know what? I'm going to automate this. And then you move over to the right frame next to it and it says like 6 hours later and she's sweating and she's furiously typing and she's like, "Oh, I can't wait till this is automated." And there's someone behind her going, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm automating this task." And then the third bottom left frame, it's like another 2 hours later, and she goes, "Wasn't this due the other day?" She's like, "Oh, that's okay." And then she gives up and goes, "All right, well, this was only a single use case anyway, so I'm just gonna do it." So it's like,
Right.
it's that whole like, all right, so you didn't need AI for that, right? It was a single task that's not repeatable. you don't need to go and run to use AI to try to build some automation that you're only going to use once. And I think that's where it gets overused, or people can fall into that trap. And so I think what's great about your platform is it's sort of helping people guide and understand, like, okay, it's there again as a tool. It's not meant to do the entire job for you, but you're going to get to a point where you do want to use the AI to create the software. You don't want to, from that comic I just said, yes, you might say, oh, well, it's not repeatable, but it's like, but the thing is, you don't want to then go and say, all right, I spent all this time doing the research and the brainstorming expertise to really build out something on paper. Well, now let's go spend 8 months building it, the prototype. No, you want to build a prototype quickly, then get feedback on it and go, what can I
Right.
tweak? And suppose, or maybe eventually you might say, okay, I got to shift. But what did you didn't spend too much money. You didn't spend too much time because you got these things built. But again, it was focused on what your best bet was, given your knowledge and intuition on things, which is the way to do it versus just building a solution.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, AI is a hype cycle, right? Like everything else. It's probably the most real value of most of the hype cycles we've had. But let's not kid ourselves. There's a hype cycle here. So you got to kind of pull the value, and there's a ton of value, but you talk about automation. We've had RPA and just other types of other technologies to automate things for 20 years, right? If you're simply doing automation, you probably don't need AI. And that's the thing, right? Like AI is not the answer to everything. And that's part of the hype. So we're big believers. I don't want to sound like I'm anti-AI. I'm not at all, but let's pull the hype out of it and say again, let's not lose the fundamentals, right? We know, well, I guess 75% failure rate would say maybe we don't know the best way or the right way to build a product. It's there, right? There's fundamentals. You follow a good product development life cycle. You do solid product management and software development. I mean, again, we know how to do that, right? Um, so it's kind of taking the best and the value out of AI and but not getting too caught up in the hype. And we're all guilty of it. I mean, we're guilty of it as well. But when I find ourselves maybe doing something, using AI to do something that, wait a minute, right? I mean, maybe that's not necessary. Let's use it for the right things. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, because it's moving so fast, the next 3 months, 6 months, next year or two, where we end up, because there's no doubt this is different than previous hype cycles, but we just can't get too caught up in the hype. And I think trying to do everything with AI and vibe coding and just I think are two things that are kind of part of the hype cycle that I think we're going to see that die down, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like crypto though, right? Or it's not that kind of hype cycle. I think there is validity in it again, right? If it's funneled the right way and using it the right way. But I think like some of the great positives, for example, right? My background is not coding, right? It's product management. So I work with coders and I have to relay the vision, but it's still not coding. Well, guess what? AI just enabled me to have low code where I can be a product manager and build, which is phenomenal, right? So you're taking the skill set that was very hard to learn and there was a high barrier. You really had to pick one or the other. It's kind of hard to be your own product manager when you're a builder, coder, but now you have a way to get there. Now, will it be perfect? No, today, but maybe in a few years or sooner you will. I'm not saying we're replacing all developers, but
Yep.
but you're getting at least to a starting point. Because I talk about MVP usually means minimum viable product, but I always like to talk about like an MVP market viable product, right? So what can I put into market that someone's going to be able to use and be content with, right? Maybe we'll get lucky and they'll jump for joy with it and we'll go, wow, we didn't realize it was going to be that big of an impact. But you want them to be able to see it, because a true MVP could really just be, hey, I wanted to do X. I gave them the bare minimum to do X. That's by definition an MVP, but it's the worst experience ever.
Right.
So market viable is really important. I think again, AI is helping you get to that point, or at least a stepping stone to get there faster, and then go back and learn and do all that. With a lot of this going on, like, junior product managers and even product managers that always are looking to learn. Well, what is something probably that we haven't talked about as a part of this product development life cycle or the role of product manager that, people have either a misconception about or maybe doing wrong that Velocity PM actually helps correct that, or at least the minimum show them the light?
Sure. So for me, the way I look at it is, and I want to be clear, like our goal and our vision for this platform is not to replace humans, right? Not to, get rid of either side, developers, product managers. Like that's not our vision or our purpose, right? It's kind of the opposite. It's to make them more powerful. Now, and again, I think the next 6 to 18 months is really we'll know what it's gonna ultimately look like sometime during that period of time. I really believe. Here's what I think, and I think our platform does a good job of supporting this future that I'm kind of forecasting. I think a product development team in the future is going to be anywhere between 1 to 3 people. Now, on the extreme end, it could be just the product manager, kind of like what you were talking about, right? Today, you can create decent code, you can create some prototypes or maybe even more than a prototype, but it's not quite ready for prime time. But you can imagine a world where the product manager is kind of the director, right? Leading this orchestra of AI driven tools. They know the product manager knows the industry, they know the product, they have some technical, background at least, and certainly understand product development, even if they're not a developer. So you could kind of see a world where the product manager is the director of this engine, of this orchestra.
Yeah.
I can see some other reasons why. Well, maybe it's the product trio. We like the last, I don't know, I guess 3 years, 3 to 5 years, what's become really popular in product development is the product trio. Product manager, lead developer, or kind of a senior lead developer, maybe even kind of an architect, and the designer. So that trio could be the ones that um lead this product development team. So instead of, we always hear the term, or for years we've heard the kind of the pizza size team, right? Six to 8 people. That's typically what a scrum team looks like today. Maybe it's those three in the future, but we can do so much more. Again, it doesn't mean you fire everybody else. It means that 8 people on one team, maybe that's 2 or 3 product development teams building way more. And again, as we continue to focus on the fundamentals of product management, and leverage AI as it gets better and better, we could be creating so much more value. So you're taking 3 teams of 8 people and maybe turn that into, 10 teams, right? Or 8 or 10 teams,
Yeah.
providing a
Oh, for
ton more
sure.
value than they could today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, had hundreds of tickets or stories in the backlog that one team even having, and they say too is within Scrum, bigger doesn't always mean better. That's
For
just
sure.
that many more people that have an opinion on the team. So, like you said, having a leaner team, but having the resources to support that, as if you were having clones of yourself, whatever, to do this work. You're right; they could do it a lot faster, which is pretty amazing. Because I'm used to running 30-person teams because of these projects, and it's like the best. In honesty and true story, I ended up scaling back a team because I wanted to put funds elsewhere because I just didn't see we originally thought it was going to be a big impact, and as we looked at what was going on, it wasn't going to be. So I scaled it back, and I just had 3 people on the team. I had a developer, myself as a product manager, and a designer, and we got more done on that project than when it was a 25-person team working on that same project. I didn't think we would. I just was like, all right, we'll deprioritize it. And it ended up just getting done faster. And then it was like, oh yeah, didn't
Yeah.
realize that. Got that done pretty quickly. So there is something to be said about a smaller team.
Sure. And look, there's always more work to do than there are people to do it, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
just a constant, steady state. I've seen that. I've worked for 3, 4, 5 people startups, and I've worked for companies, I've worked for Amazon, right? And every team, you might have one team in a small startup. You might have 100 product development teams, 1,000 product development teams at a bigger company like an Amazon. And every individual team, there's still always more work to do than there are people to do it on that team. So I think that's where AI plus the right fundamentals, where I think that can help. For one, you can do more faster, but you're doing the right things. But how about if you could quickly, using AI powered product management, quickly find ways to just kill parts of your backlog, right? You always hear that every product manager wants to just kill their backlog, but it's hard because you're like, well, we don't have time to go through it in that level of detail. But if you have a product management, or excuse me, an AI powered product engine, right, that does know the problems you're trying to solve because it helped you develop them, right? If it has all of that context and that foundation, it could just automatically scrub your backlog. That's just one of many ways that you can make that team more efficient, not have to look at this big, huge backlog every 2 weeks in sprint planning or every day in your stand up, right? But you're doing it intelligently because it's easy. You could now just go start deleting things, and I've done it, right? So I just see so many ways to make what we do today better. And I'm not against speed. I want to do things faster, but I don't think building software faster is the problem. It's getting to what should we build and how should we build it? How should we solve that problem? How do we know we're solving that problem? How do we iterate on it when we do put an MVP in market? And again, these are things that I think I'm going to keep saying it because I'm a big believer in it. AI powered product management, AI powered product development. That's the answer, not make it easy to write code faster, right? Because I just think that's solving the wrong problem.
Yeah. 100%. I know we're running short on time, and I want to make sure, is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you really want to make sure to get across to the audience?
I mean, maybe just a little bit more kind of nuance on some of these points. I say, I've been really, I feel like perfecting our messaging and our story, and it just comes down to this. And again, it's somewhat redundant, but I want to get a little bit more specific on it because I feel so strongly about this. And a saying that I have is software without product management is not a product. It's software. And again, I don't want to belittle product developers and engineers. They'll probably want to shoot me after hearing this, but with an asterisk next to it, developing software is relatively easy, right? Software development is a mature, tried and true industry. It's relatively easy. Now, to be a 10x engineer, it's not, right? I mean, those people
Yeah.
are special. But again, in general, writing software, we know how to do it. It's pretty easy. But building products, right? Because software without product management is not a product, right? And I should say without good product management is not a product. So I just want to, if I could say one thing to people is don't be a feature factory. Don't think vibe coding is going to give you production ready code, at least not today. Really focus on the fundamentals, and that is do product management right. And there's plenty of resources out there. Obviously, I feel our platform is a great way to do that. But there's so many resources out there now where I've been in product development for a long time before we even knew what product management was. While it's still maybe a kind of a young and maturing discipline, I think it's come a long way. And I think the resources are there if you go find them. So let's not get hung up on the hype. AI is great, but let's use it to build the right things, the right products, right? Software is just one of the things that goes into building a good product.
Agreed. Agreed. So I know folks are going to want to reach out and, check out Velocity PM and, maybe even connect with you on LinkedIn. Besides, and I'll put all that stuff into the comments, is there any links or things that you want to add or let people know about for Velocity PM?
Sure. Yeah, I'll say would love for people to check out the platform. We make it really easy. We have a free trial, no credit card required. So sign up, check it out. If you like it, great. Convert to a paid version. If not, we also welcome feedback, right? Even though, I feel like we've kind of solved phase one of our journey here, which is, phase one is Copilot. Phase two is agent driven workflow with prototypes. These three fully autonomous product development. Don't know when that's coming, but So I feel like we've done a good job of kind of really delivering on phase one. That said, we still welcome and want feedback, right? So would love for people to check it out and let us know what you think. And again, that's you can go to velocitipm.com, and it's velocity with an I instead of a Y. There's the spelling
Yeah.
right there, velocitipm.com to check it out. And again, feedback is the most important thing at this stage. So we'd love to hear what people think.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Anthony, thanks for being on the show. I know you're a busy founder and got a lot, so I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to sit down with us and talk. So, looking forward to seeing the evolutions of Velocity PM and how it's going to really transform product management as we know it today. So, thank you.
But thank you. I appreciate you giving me the platform.
Yeah. Uh, so, what you guys heard today was an amazing platform. I highly recommend you check it out. Again, I'll put it in the comments and in the show notes. And whether you're 0 to 1 or 100 to infinity teams, I think this is going to be a useful product for you guys to use and see like how to be able to think more critically, more strategically, and be able to use those best traits of a good product manager. And with that, keep on innovating. Bye.